What's up, guys? Welcome to Financial Dad. Appreciate you joining us. And it's going to be me just today. I wanted JC to come, but she's right in the middle of starting college. So today's episode is a little different. We're not going to talk about financial tips. It's more of like the psychology of or discipline in regards to the financial, fitness, family, faith, whatever you want to say, that I have been through, as well as I have spent ever since I've gotten into this and started speaking more about my practice, as well as just learning more about my clients and my friends and my family. And what that looks like in my practice is, there's two parts to what I do. So just to kind of hit on this, if you guys haven't watched in previous episodes. So I own a financial services company. We tackle that by focusing on two main goals, one roof, two different companies. And so what I focus on is managing long-term financial goals that clients have with one company. And then on the other company, we handle people's business and personal insurance. And so, there's a reason why I do that is because the way I was educated is all financial plans start with insurance, but just basic insurance. Doesn't have to be complicated. And what I mean by that is in my business, if your financial goal is a 30 or 40 year goal or shorter, doesn't have to be that, but most people's, are a long-term goal, then how you handle that is making sure that your insurance is right. That's just what I believe in, and it's worked well. What we're going to talk about today, again, has nothing to do with building wealth with the dollars. It's more of like building wealth through your attitude and who you surround yourself with and those kind of good things. You can see this across all influencers, or even if 20 years ago, pre-influencers, you could go to any financial advisor and basically they were telling you the same thing. It's more, but this comes from a dad's perspective. This is how I view things. These are the mistakes that I have made. And so as well as there's one defining characteristic of all of the men and women and families, mostly what I meet with are families, two people with either kids or going to have kids. But I think as I get into this, I'm starting to realize that a lot of men and women in today's world, no matter the age, 25 to 75, nobody has really educated anybody on what it takes to have freedom and peace. They just don't. It's I think that in the United States, we just grind and grind and grind, and it's really not that hard. It is not that difficult, but we make it difficult. So those are the things that we're going to talk about today. In the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, I've really spent a lot of time, and this I have to it's been hard for me because you have to redefine what you believe. You have to meet with, whenever I'm meeting with my clients, I've been asking them more questions, not just the 10 or 20 questions that I ask people for years that every financial advisor is going to ask you. What is your goal? What is your debt? What is your assets? I'm talking about questions like, why do you believe what you believe? Those are the things, what are you teaching your kids? Why do you feel the way that you feel? All of those things play into, because anybody can shoot a line of shit to you. I sit down with people and maybe it's because they think that I have it all figured out. Who knows? But I think that the majority of the people that I meet with, until we have maybe 2 to 3 appointments, everybody bases their whole financial future, and really their financial, their fitness, their faith, they base it on what they hope will happen. They base it on a lot of bravado. They base it on a lot of speculation of things that they haven't done yet. And that is a mistake because it's not real. And it's all based on hoping. And I've said this since, I don't know who I learned this from, but basing all of your your business and your financial and your family on the word hope is it will never happen. It's hoping that the stock market will come back. It's hoping that your fitness gets better. It's hoping that your relationship with your kids or your wife or your family or your brother is hoping, and it never does. It never gets better. And so that is the one defining characteristics of all of the men and women that I meet with, no matter what they look like, no matter their race, their gender, whatever they think, they all want a better life. They all want someone to give them solid advice. But most of all, they all want the same thing. They want their family taken care of, and whenever they want to leave a legacy of something that whenever they are not here, somebody looks back and says, damn, that dude was a good dude. That woman was a good woman. That mom was a good mom. And the last thing you want to do is get to your deathbed and be like, damn, I wish I would have done that. But we'll talk about that. Number one, I was thinking about this the other day, and everything that you see in social media is crazy. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. I use that word a lot, ridiculous. And so, but not everyone is suffering. Not everyone that you see has got some downtrodden story. They might have events that happen, but not everybody's life is bad. And so I think that in a lot of ways, people are scared to tell people the good things that are happening in their life because so many people just talk about bad things. And if you did, you know, if I came up to you and you said, hey, hey Gus, how was your day? Man, I had an awesome day today. It was great. You know, I think a lot of times you would, whenever you start talking about, you know, being grateful or that your life is good, and not just a bullshit good, it's like a good with a reason. Hey, this happened to me today. You know, I think that what's going to happen is when you start living your life that way, and it's difficult to live your life that way. The world does not want you to live a life of where you talk about the good things. And I think that your circle, I talk about circles a lot with my family and my friends, your circles would reduce substantially. Your life, when you started talking about the good things, the expectation that people have of you for you to be an overcomer of bad things would like be on steroids. It would just be a change of mental scenery for yourself. So like I said, not everyone is doing bad. Everyone wants to get better, but not everybody is doing bad. Now, there are some people that are doing bad or having difficult times and everything, but I think the tips that we're going to go through the day that I have found in my practice, as well as with myself. Not every day is a great day. I'm a dad, so every day I feel like I fail. Every day I raise my voice. Every day I shouldn't have bought that. Every day are these things that come up that you know you could have done better. And I think that that's just life. Accepting that is just life is one of the main things I talk about is acceptance. Most people, if they would meet in the financial world, most people, if they would meet with an unbiased party, meaning someone that isn't trying to sell them something. And so right now, everything that I'm doing in regards to this, whether it's the podcast, whether it's I do it for free. I meet with probably 15 to 30 new clients a week, and a lot of and I say new clients, prospects, and probably half of them, or maybe I would like to think that my closing is better than that. So, but I would say some of them don't come with me. But the advice, they tell me that the advice that I give them, whether it's financial, most of it's 90% financial, I turn more people away and tell them to stay where they are, but they take my advice and kind of, put whatever they're doing and use the tips that I've given them. So I believe that I do this for the right reasons. And I think that's a big difference between me and a lot of people is I tell all my clients, I don't need your money. I don't need your business. I want your business, but I don't need it so bad that I'm willing to give you bad advice that I know is not real. And I think that that's a big thing. In regards to an unbiased party, someone that really does not care if you succeed or fail. just someone that's just stating facts. And I think that that's a hard thing for a lot of people to accept. The majority of most financial wins or losses could be solved if you met with an unbiased party. It's not a riddle. For a lot of people, it's just a math problem. And most financial, even anything, financial, fitness, whatever, is a math problem. The more time you focus on something, the better it will be. So today, we're going to hit this. Today is the simple question is this. Have you stated what you want the end goal to be? So whatever it is. Have you really defined what you want that to be? And again, with most dads, it's got something to do with their family, or it might be all of them, just in different circles. It might be financial, it might be fitness, it might be family, it might be faith. And I think that the real reason in my life, whenever I did not define that, either I thought it was so far away, or it was unattainable, the path was too hard. But then once I kind of changed the way I reframed what I was trying to do, and I really focused on it, it's crazy how easy that becomes. And it's all relative, meaning that I don't think that a person that is making X is going to make 50 times X. It has to be a really defined, I mean, they could. I'm not telling somebody what they can't do, but I think if you really define the goal that you're looking for, then work backwards and create a path to that, and then you do those things, that is how people win. That's how people that have won win. And I think that is really difficult for a lot of dads and moms to do. And here's the reason why. Is because you have to admit that you have not been doing those things to get there. You have to admit, you might be disappointed in yourself. You might have other people that are disappointed in yourself. But again, I think if people would give themselves the grace to understand that's just life. You get to start again the next day. I think that's the biggest thing that has helped me in my life, is just understand that I don't have to be burdened with disappointment. I just don't, and I don't anymore. I gave it all up. What we're going to talk about today is a few tips to make your life a little more simple, and tips to let things go and move forward. No one, and I use this a lot. I use this a lot with my kids. No one has got it figured out. Anybody that tells you that they have it figured out is full of shit. It's just not a thing, and no one's getting out alive. I would like to think my wife will tell you that she thinks I've been grown since I was like 12, 13 years old. I think it was just the way that I was raised. I mean, I come from Eastern North Carolina. My whole family farms. Everything that you did and everything that you got, there was a price to pay. And there was getting up early, going to bed late. I didn't even know that failure was an option, because if you didn't succeed in some way, shape, or form, then you didn't eat. You didn't have stuff. You just, it was not as free as it was today. My dad told me no to everything. No, everything was no. But there was no with a reason, not just a hard no. So today we're going to talk about 5 tips. Tip number 1, have you made a plan, an end goal, and then the steps to get there? Number 2, who is in your life that's giving you advice, not just their thoughts, but helping you succeed? Who are your heroes? We're going to talk about that in depth today. Who are your heroes? Be careful who you think has it all figured out. Acknowledge the self-imposed obstacles and stop them. That's very difficult, but we're going to talk about that. And then learn to say no. So the 5 tips today, we're going to hit all of those. I will say it is rare that a person never makes mistakes and never searches out the answers and even knows the questions to ask. Most people start by searching for solutions after mistakes have been made. And what I mean by that is the majority of my financial clients were not taught at an early age about discipline and sacrifice, integrity. You find a lot of people that are even morally corrupt because in today's world, or we've all gone through seasons where we've made mistakes on those four huge things. I can remember back and I think about this a lot, and yeah, I held my dad and my family captive in my mind and in my heart for many years because I was like, why didn't they teach me about that? Why didn't they talk to me about that? It's because my family was fucking working, 7 days a week, bud. It is not, they were focused on their business. Now, yeah, if you talk to my dad today, he was like, yeah, I should have said those things. But my family led by example. And I think that that is one thing that I'm not going to say is missing today. I would say with social media, the issue is you don't see it as prevalent today because the people that are doing it are not out there telling people that they're doing it. And I think that that needs to be, I'm not even going to say it's a resurgence. I would say that the most of the issues that are going on with people today is because people are not communicating. Men are disappointed in themselves. They're disappointed in the actions that they didn't take. And I think that the biggest thing that I can tell you is give yourself some grace, dude. You don't have to keep going down that path. Yeah, you just don't. Yeah, you can stop. You don't even have to reverse. You just stop. And yeah, it takes time, but we'll talk. Hopefully this will give you some answers. The issue again with that is the pain. The questions, or in a lot of instances, they want to not have the pain of financial and fitness and family mistakes. Those mistakes that you have made have to get to be so bad that you are so sick and tired of being sick and tired that you feel that you want to make a change. And I think that that's where I got. I speak very, very openly about my mistakes. I speak very openly with my almost 20-year-old as well as my wife. Whenever I did not speak openly about my mistakes, it was a burden that I really think prevented me from being able to enjoy the good times. And yeah, some things, you know what, I don't want to talk about them with my wife, but you have to talk about them with somebody. And I think that that's one of the things that is huge. Today, we are going to talk about taking stock of where you are, not where you want to be, not based on a bonus or a new job. This is tip number one. On a new job, etc. With business and money, if you are basing winning and on hoping, then you will always lose. You cannot, hoping that things will change is just not a thing. For dads and moms, this is the hardest pill to swallow. This is where you have to look in the mirror and take accountability. It's like when a person discovers that everything that they thought to be true and right was not. And, a lot of these, it's so weird that for me, everything is like biblical. But I think that, the moral aspect of business and how you run your house and how you run your life and what you think of yourself is huge. I think that a lot of dads in today's world, and again, not everybody's doing bad. Not everybody wakes up, with like a cat of nine tails and they're just whipping themselves on the back, just like, demoralized about what the things that they're doing. But I think that every man can wake up, and I'll look directly in the camera whenever I say this. I think that every man wakes up in the morning and knows, hey, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I need to take a different path. But it is very, very difficult. And it's very difficult to change paths because once you go down too far of a path, you think there is no redemption. You think that how you're living right now is the way that you're going to finish it. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. You don't have to end your life that way. I want to talk a little bit about what happened with me. I discovered that I did not know it all. I discovered that the more that I thought my path was the right path, the harder my path got. I ended up working alone. I ended up trying to build my company alone. I pushed everyone aside, whether it was my family, my kids, my wife, everything was business focused. I really think that a lot of what you see today in regards to like your heroes, you have zero idea the sacrifices that those people made to get where they are. I think you might hear it in a documentary or a 30, what's it called? A 30-30, isn't that what it's called? Where 20 years later, you learn the sacrifices that people made. And I think that people need to be super aware of who they're calling their heroes. And we'll talk about that. But for me, I pushed everyone aside. I really for the last 10, 11 years, until probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I was really crushing it. But I was crushing it in a way that was building my company to a place where I never even thought it could be. I mean, it was a dream. But the way that I did it, I think I could have gone a different path, and then I did go down a different path in regards to what I was paying attention to. And then I asked myself, I was like, why did I do that? I talked myself into believing that if I just worked and tried to be a good person and do good things, then good things would happen. And that's not how it works. I discovered that I was not as smart as I thought. I discovered that all the plans I had made and the promises I had made to myself about what I was going to do, those times had passed me by, and maybe I had reached those goals partially, but not fully. And what I mean by that is the goals that today you set a goal a year ago, that's some goal that you wanted to reach, by today. Now that time has passed. Did you really reach the goal? Did you have a plan? And so that's why that tip number one about setting a plan and then working backwards to get to that goal is vital. I think that you will find that it's not as difficult. Really, most goals can be achieved with 3 or 4 steps, and most of them are intertwined. Meaning if you have 4 goals, most of the 3 steps are the exact same. I think as a dad, you work so hard to achieve goals, and you want to see the excitement. We want to get pats on the back. We want to get the attaboys from our family and who we're doing it for. I think that unfortunately, those are all great things, but they all come with a price, and a lot of them it's just not real. But I started asking myself about why did I not reach them fully? What was stopping me from reaching my financial and fitness and family goals? Whatever the goal was, why was I missing the mark? And I think that, and the easy answer was, I didn't have a plan. I really didn't have a goal. It was like something I read in a book. It was like I watched a movie and said, oh, well, this guy was a great basketball player. Or this guy was wealthy. And wealth is all relative. And I was like, I'm just going to do that with no plan. And I think that's whenever I discovered basically I was full of shit. I mean, I hate to say that because I know it sounds like I'm being self-deprecating, but I say it with a smile because until I was able to basically be real with myself, I just don't think that you can achieve your goals. I just think it's impossible. I think it's a pipe dream. I think that parents are not being real with their kids. Husbands are not being real with their wives. Wives are not being real with their husbands. And I'll restate that. My podcast or this is the Financial Dad. I have said this many times. I believe that 90% of the issues that happen in a person's life are men driven. I think that the issues that have happened in my house or in my life, especially in my dating and then married life, were issues caused by me. And I believe that pretty much 100% of the financial issues that we have had were caused by me. So let's talk about some tips for getting on the right path. And anybody that tells you, unfortunately, social media is totally everybody telling you that that the great things happen overnight. But I always go back to Mr. Beast. This dude spent years perfecting his art. And whether or not that was from age 30 to 40, so a 30-year-old that makes it when he's 40, everybody's like, oh, that's awesome. But a 15-year-old or a 13-year-old that makes it when they're 25, everybody's looking for somebody gave it to them. And that's ridiculous. But it's not an overnight path. Whether you're 25 or 45, if you believe you will right the ship overnight, and even in a year or 5 years, you'll be mistaken. I always go back to if I wanted to lose 20 pounds and it took me 10 years to gain 20 pounds, how long do you think it's going to take for you to lose 20 pounds and mentally keep off the 20 pounds? Anybody can solve most issues in about 90 days, but to mentally be in a place where you understand the sacrifice that you made and keep being disciplined enough to reach those goals and sustain those goals, man, that takes a level of commitment. You have to learn the mistake that you made, and then you win. For me, this has been an 11-year journey. I was all over the place for 6 years of those 11 years, just doing whatever I could to grow, to basically learn everything that I could that could make my business successful, and really niche the products that I gave people. But I still was not focused. I'd never set the goal. I was just basically just doing whatever I could to make money and build the company. And that's all I cared about. I was patting myself on the back a lot. I thought that every big win was the win. And I really didn't care, and I really didn't really start to feel fulfilled until I really started taking stock of what we're about to talk about. So I know it's taken a long time to get to tip 1, but we'll get into it now. So I think for men and dads, I think the hardest thing is to bring men solid, honest with you, not scared of me, not scared of being honest, but solid men who walk the walk. I started to bring men into my life that knew way more than me about being successful. They had had failures. Anybody that tells you that they're successful without failures is a fool. It's ridiculous. And if they are not willing to talk about their failures, but then how they won, then you really can't take advice from that. You hear this a lot. It was like, why would you take financial advice from a poor person? That's ridiculous. They can only tell you what they would do, but there's no wealth in that. It's like, to give 100 examples of taking advice from bad people, it's like if my mom had never been married and she's going to talk to me as a man about how to have a successful relationship. That's just ridiculous. And so you have to stop. But men, you have to surround yourself with other men. You have to listen to them about finances, family, fitness. And this was the toughest part for me, because up until that time, I had surrounded myself with a lot of people that, a lot of successful people, but they could not teach me what I was really searching for. And so I had to stop that. Reading in a book is one thing, but to really physically bring more successful men into my life that had one failed, but tried their best to stay on the path, I started to listen to those guys. And again, the hardest thing to say to myself was to say, Gus, you were wrong. These men are doing better than you. They're faster, smarter, read more, treat themselves well, and they treat others well, and like themselves more than you like yourself. And I think that's a key thing to do, is you have to like yourself. You have to like what you're doing, and not every day is going to be a perfect day. And but these men were honest with themselves throughout the good and the bad. And I think that is a learned skill. That is not something that I think that most people, I think it only comes with failure. You have to like the fact that you failed, you took stock of where you were, and then you succeeded. But I don't think that in today's world, I think there is a lack of, men are so scared to coach other people. You see this on the practice field. You see parents out there just railing umpires, railing their coaches. And I think that the psychological part about all that is that probably the dads are just disappointed in themselves. I think that that's a huge deal in today's world. Maybe it has always been. I mean, nobody's ever asked my grandfather how it was whenever he was a kid, if it was the same thing. I mean, who knows? But that's tip number 1, is you have to. My life changed about 8 years ago whenever I started joining men's group with my church. At that time, my wife and I were going to a church where it was so big that they had men's groups. What ended up happening is that ended up not really being about the church. We would meet at somebody's house. We would read a book that really had nothing to do with the Bible. But we would read a book and we would talk about a book, and through that one men's group, I've met 2 business partners, and that I now have 7 years of businesses with, as well as friends that showed me that a different path. And I think that that's huge for men. Number two, I started to understand that all the people I idolized my life, shirts that I wore, names on the back of jerseys, that I felt were from another world, that were like, you see in movies, you see on TV, and this again is huge. Whether it be in my world, Michael Jordan, Arnold, Kobe, and recently, like in the last 10 years, it was like in the CrossFit world, whether it was like Rich Froning or people like that, but whatever floats your boat in regards to who you idolized, who was like that bigger than life person. These people I had never met in my life. I didn't know them. I never met them, but they were all winners in my eyes. They were all winners and people I wanted to be like in their fields, the men and women I held on such a high place. But what I found out as I've gotten older, and I don't think this is really being a dad, it's like being sentimental, but I don't think that and I think what changed my mind about this is I watched a documentary. I watch a lot of documentaries, but I watched a documentary on a few of these people that I idolized over the years. And what I figured out is they won in a lot of aspects in their life, but they also lost in a lot of aspects. They gave up a lot to win. They gave up their family, they gave up children, they gave up money, they gave up time to win. And I really started to ask myself, are they really idols? So then I kind of started looking at other things. So I want to mention some people by specifically, but that are in my life. So a dude that I met, you have to kind of have to change your perspective about who you're like looking up to. And really, I think that it's a huge thing whenever you only know the idols that you have, you only know what they tell you. You don't know anything about them. You only see the wins. You think on Instagram that they're showing you the 20 takes that it took to do that, or the emotional part of it. No, you're only seeing the good part of it. And again, I need to find another word other than ridiculous, but it's just dumb. It's men not wanting to be around other men who will hold them accountable. And that's all that it is. You don't want to be told that you're a piece of shit. You don't want to be told that there's a different path. You don't want to be told that you're treating your wife bad. You don't want to be told that your kids don't like you. You don't want to be told anything. And so what do? You find these false idols that you have no idea what they feel about anything other than they play a sport or they sing a song or anything. But in any other given day, you wouldn't even be friends with that people if you knew who they were. But for example, one of my best friends, his name's Parker. Met him 8 years ago in a class, and he changed my life. He changed my whole family's. This one dude that I became friends with changed my family's stars for the whole entirety of my life and probably the next 3 generations. This guy had so much faith in me that we started a real estate company together. This dude backed me 8 years ago when he didn't have to. Nobody else, who else? Who else is going to do that? And so when you talk about your parents, everybody wants to hate on their parents. And I say, but I will say, like, idol-wise, everybody says, oh, or their dad or something like that. But I don't think, or their dad or their mom. But in my life, my dad and my stepmom have never left me. They helped me through crisis. They helped me through more bad times than good, but never once brought it up. Once I figured it out, I was like, that's an idol. That is the things that you have to kind of be thankful for. I think about my dad and my uncle. My uncle passed away a couple of years ago, but he and my dad took my grandfather's farm. There was an age difference between my uncle and my dad, and we never really understood each other. And that's kind of one of my biggest regrets, is I didn't ask these people that were so influential in my life about their life. I didn't even know to do that. And again, this is not being sentimental. This is choosing to talk to people about their life, and then so they can have an impact on your life. But my uncle and my dad, they farmed together for many years, 40 plus years, brothers in arms. One was the math and the effort, and one was the physical and the effort, running a farm operation that has left my family, my Robertson family, through generations of winning. And those two dudes, they showed me whenever I was younger integrity, morals, work ethic. They showed all of that. And I was so goddamn dumb that I didn't even recognize that. But all of us have people in our life that are showing us a better path. We just don't want to see it because we'd rather go home, turn the fucking game on, drink a beer, and then look how great somebody else's life is, how great somebody else's relationship is with their wife. And all we're seeing is what they show us. So it's just not real. I've got a guy in my family, his name is Jamie Jones. He's a family member of mine he has been so disciplined so financially and family disciplined over the years and steadfast with his faith, his fitness, his finances, that whenever I did have a question and I was uncertain, I found myself always asking him. And I think a lot of this had to do is that Jamie made the choice early on that he wanted his life different. And so a couple weeks ago, I did ask him. I asked him, and it was like something out of a book. I was like, Jamie, what was the defining factor in your life and I believe that there was two. He'll only talk about one. But I think that family-wise, it was, I'm not going to make assumptions here, so I'll just say that maybe his family life between his mom and dad, he wanted something different. But on the financial part of it, he told me this one story. He said that he and his dad and his brother, so this would have been in late 90s, they were at a house here in Greenville, North Carolina, working, doing the HVAC. He and his brother own an HVAC company. And they were working on this house for a large builder. It's a large house. And he and his brother and his dad were upstairs working in this house. And they were all sweating. It was hot in the middle of July. And Jamie was amazed at the size of this house. It was like, it was foreign to him to be in such a large home. And he was like, well, who needs a house like this? And that's what he was saying in his mind. And then he said a light turned on, a light turned on, and he just said, he looked at his dad and his brother, and he said, I want to live in a house this size one day, and I want a family to put in this house. And he said what happened next changed his life. He said his brother and his dad laughed at him, basically telling him, he didn't tell me that they actually said the words, but they laughed at him. And in his mind, they were saying, oh, well, you'll never have this. You'll never do that. And that was the defining moment in his life where he was like financially and family-wise, he wanted something different. And we all have those defining moments in our life where he wasted no more time. Ever since I was in college, and he is actually a person that went into trades. I went to college, wasted my time, even though I learned a lot. So even though college may not be for everybody, he went straight to work with his family. And now he and his brother own one of the largest HVAC companies in this area. I believe probably east of 95, they own one of the largest HVAC companies, and I'm proud of him for doing that. The next one I think is decide who is going to be the next guy I want to talk about. His name is Neil Khali. I'm not trying to talk, I'm just trying to be super where everybody understands who you put in your life will fuck your life up. Who you get out of your life will help you. Who you let in. The people that you think are your best friends, they are not. They are not your best friends. They're your best friends as long as you're doing something for them. But I think that every person has those defining people if you will accept that you probably already have those people in your life, good and bad, that determine how your life is going to go. So I won't be long-winded about Neil, but Neil and I, we've been friends since we were 16, 17. The dude's not wealthy. He busts his ass. He's got a great job, but He and I called him up about 4 or 5 months ago. Now, this dude busted his ass financially and physically in his fitness over like the last year. He's really put max effort into it. So much so that I probably, I probably stayed away from him because he was working so hard. He set his mind on something and he did it. So I gave him a call about I think it was back in February. I said, dude, let's do a Spartan race. And he didn't even hesitate. It was kind of scary. He didn't hesitate. He was like, yeah, sign me up. And so he put max effort into training for that, and I didn't. We showed up on May the 4th, and I got my ass handed to me. It was probably one of the worst. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was so upset with myself that I cried. I sat by myself in my car halfway through the race, and I cried. I was so disappointed in myself, and what I was disappointed about is my son, who was 6 years old. He was like, "Hey, bring the medal home. Bring the medal home," and that was, I think that's one thing that kind of like that sucked. But I was so happy for Neil. The race was terrible. It was a 10-hour event, and I got about halfway through, and my body just rebelled against me. I was underprepared. I did not set the goal, execute the plan. I just showed up. I thought that I could just mentally will it, and it knocked my dick in the dirt. It was the hardest thing, and I've done a lot of hard physical things. This was the hardest civilian thing, and I was never military, but this was the reason why I said civilians, because I'm sure that there's a lot of military that have been through harder races or whatever. But that ultra Spartan race was the most difficult thing mentally and physically I've ever done, and I failed. And I sat there in my car for 3 hours, deciding whether or not I was going to be happy for Neil. At first, I went through a little myriad of emotions, like, hey, I hope that he walks up. I hope he quit. But then the longer I sat there, I was like, dude, he deserves to win this. He deserves to finish. And next thing I know, like 30 minutes later, he came walking up, and he had his medal on his chest, and I was very proud of him, and he did not quit. And the reason why I mentioned that is because not all men have easy lives. Neil's not had an easy life. But in that one moment, he let himself win. And he will tell you this, and I'll tell you this. You have to let yourself win. You have to be prepared to win. You have to set the goal, execute the plan to win. Whether or not it's financial, faith, family, whatever, it does not matter. But Neil set himself up to win, and I was very proud of him for that. And it's kind of showed me, it didn't kind of show me, he showed me on that day that I needed to make further changes in my life. I needed to keep evolving. I need to keep changing. I need to keep doing. I need to understand that life is a gift and to give myself grace. But it took me a couple weeks to get over that. And the worst part of it was coming home, and my son, who again is 6, him seeing that medal on another man's chest and not see it on mine. That was difficult for me. And but I believe that it was the shock that I needed. And I think that every man has to have those shocks in order to get him back on the right path. I think that that's whenever I know that also my life changed. It's been a long time since I've looked at somebody else and said, hey, I want them to win. And I think that was a defining place in my life, even though I'm almost 50 years old. It's even weird to say that, but Neil completed that race quicker I think only I think there was like 1,500 people, and over half of them quit, and he didn't quit. And I would say I would like to think that that's we call that like a misogi. A misogi is something where it's like one hard thing you do every single year, whether it's a race, a physical challenge or something like that. And our name was American Misogi. And so, and him completing that showed me a lot, and me wanting him and being thankful and being happy that he did it has been more of a defining, that I know that I'm evolving as a person because I was happy that somebody else won. But if you think about like idolize wise, I'm not going to call him an idol, but I will say that he's an inspiration. And I think that a lot of people need to define who is inspirational in their life. And I think that you need to surround yourself with more physical, inspirational people that you can talk to. That's my point behind all this. These are people that you should idolize, the people that are in your life on a daily basis. They aren't perfect, but they are real life heroes that you can touch and that you can touch, see, feel. These are people that you really need to ask questions to. These are men and women that you need to bring closer in your life. Bring men and women in your life that are brutally honest with you. I think a lot of people, whether again, financially, fitness, faith, whatever, I don't think that men want to hear the truth. I think I had this conversation with a guy yesterday that disappointment is running rampant to where it's almost stopping people, men being disappointed in themselves, in their inaction, that it is stopping them from moving forward, because it's just, hey, let's just revel in the disappointment. Let's just sit in the pot of shit instead of jumping out and starting. But of course, I still look at MJ, I still look at Froning, and most recently just watching the Olympics. And all I see is a sacrifice and everything that all those people made. But the cool thing about it is this: when those people won, who did they go to? Who was there for them? It's your family, it's your friends, it's your coaches, it's the people that you can see, touch, and feel that were there for you. And I think that that's where people need to stop putting these false idols, these people that you think are so great, get them off the pedestal. Put the people up there that deserve to be up there. Put the people up there that help you. Put the positive people that are in your life. And the last thing I want to do is read a documentary on somebody 20 years after they were such the person to be, and to then realize that, they were just human beings. They made mistakes, and but they weren't the idol that I thought they were. One of the biggest regrets I have in my life is not talking to the people that were hard on me. I think that this is like tip number 5. I've gone through the tips. And so whether it's a teacher or a family member or somebody that you work for, why don't you just ask them, hey, dude, why are you so hard on me? And I think that a lot of times you'll find that it's either coming from love or hate. And so the people that hate you, you can just get them out of your life. But I think the people that love you should be hard on you. I think that dads and moms should say no more. That's going to be like tip number 5. But the people that you believe that you like go in your bedroom and, like, if you're a kid or you think that somebody has done you wrong, just ask them why. And I think that you will be surprised at their answer. Hey guys, but most financial and life hardships are self-imposed. Most hardships can be avoided by doing the above tips. It's very simple. Unfortunately, in my life, I turned away from a lot of good people. I didn't ask them questions. I think a lot of it had to do with disappointment. I believe, myself included, that I probably just wanted the attention or the approval from others. I don't think that I really wanted people to see, hey, I did this and I failed, and so do you have any suggestions? I think that men are scared to look at other people and say, hey man, I gave this a shot. It didn't really work out. Do you have any suggestions to kind of self-correct it or stop it? Or what are your suggestions? I find that a lot of my clients in the financial world, they're sold a line, they signed a dotted line, and then a week later they're like, oh, what was that? And so I think that making a decision is a good decision. making the right decision is a different decision. And you have to do your homework. And I think that for me, I always jumped and until I stopped jumping. And but I think that in my life, I have been given every reason and opportunity to not be successful. And I think that that because of just sheer wouldn't quit, as well as whenever I decided to make that change and incorporate these tips into my life, everything got better. I think that the key to winning is to use these life hardships and not self-sabotage. I find it weird when I see a man that won't talk about their hardships. You see that a lot today. There's a lot of talk about therapy. There's a lot of talk about talking about your feelings and stuff like that. Let's just call them hardships. I think it's a matter of time before a man explodes and implodes because he's just carrying these burdens, these questions, these whys, these why nots. They just carry them. And until one day you find yourself using all of those hardships and excuses to just not do anything because nothing's going to matter. And a lot of people call that like depression or this, that, and the other. I think that if I'm not a therapist, but I would simply say that whenever I did talk with trusted friends and I really took their advice to heart and I knew that they were coming from a good place, everything got better. The last thing you want to do is get on your deathbed and say, I wish I would have done those things. I think that whenever you make a mistake, just correct. Learn to self-correct and learn to talk with people that can help you get on the right path. I think that tip number one is the number one rule that I can give people. That is it's the biggest one. Life is all about relationships. If you don't have any relationships in your life with people who are doing better than you, that should be your number one goal. Number one. And then the last tip that I'll say, and this is the hardest one for me, is just learn to say no. Your health, which means your financial, fitness, family, is all based on your ability to say no. We are hit in the face every single day with things that we need to buy, things we need to do, vitamins we need to take, movies we need to see, everything, vacations, do all of this. Every day I wake up, I told one of my employees this today, every day I wake up with the thought that somebody's trying to get in my pocket, whether it's my kids, whether it's, whoever it is. But and you have to learn to say no. People don't respect yes men. They just don't. Or dads that say kids do not respect men that say yes to everything. If you are saying yes to the detriment of your circle, then again, it's a matter of time before it fails. And it will fail. A dad needs to be cleaning his house at all times, culling out the bad, letting the good in. If that means friends, family, fat, food, bad habits, bad movies, then so be it. When it does fail, the best thing to do is see the tips above. Forgive yourself and make a plan, work backwards on that plan, and come up with the steps to see it through. It won't happen overnight, and it will always evolve, and it will always be a moving target. Again, the tips and I said this earlier, the best thing is about relationships, finding a group that can be straight with you. And then all the rest of the tips are just things that I have found have helped me a lot in my life. If you surround yourself with a group of people that can help you, then it's a team, becomes a team. Appreciate you guys listening today. I know this kind of got off topic in regards to finances, but I think that it's really difficult to move forward with your financial life if you're not disciplined enough to understand how important these tips are. Appreciate you guys listening in to Financial Dad today. If you guys have any questions, please just leave them in the comments. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great day.